G'day, I'm Rob Malicki. Welcome to A Life That Travels, and I'm with Jack Donaldson today from South Australia, mate.
Cheers,
Thanks
mate.
for joining me today. We're going to shake hands.
Ta.
Let's do that. Jack has got the most awesome story about how he's gotten where he is, which is just about to be on a plane flying off to South Korea.
Yeah, of all places.
But before we get there, which is a really good story, I wanted to ask you what it's like, or how you ended up being in the position of standing in front of a massive blazing inferno that had been burning for 2 weeks.
Yeah. So I guess I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my career.
Yeah.
I thought the army was the option. They didn't want a little tearaway 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid either. And their advice was volunteer and get some life experience. So that's what I did. I went to my local fire brigade, volunteer. They signed up a young, fit kid, so they like that. The average age is quite old. And then I just earned my stripes and earned my time, and eventually got deployed to New South Wales for some of the biggest bushfires that Australia's seen.
Yeah, I mean, those fires back in the mountains a few years ago were literally some of the worst we've ever seen up there. And so what's it like when you're literally standing in front of this thing which is going crazy?
Yeah, I've never been to war, but I guess that's the only thing you can describe it as. I remember I was only 19 at the time, only been in the fire service maybe 2 years, and we rolled in and our trucks weren't here yet. We flew over from South Australia. We got put on a truck we didn't know the equipment on, and we literally rolled through a town that was flat.
Wow.
And the ground was white, like white ash. It had burnt that hot, and it was just white. And they just said, just keep going, and you'll find a bit where it stopped burning. And then we got to protect that area. And we just did a lot of back burns, which was dangerous as well. If the winds changed, we're lighting fires in a back burn situation. So you had to have your wits about you. You had to know the terrain. And then in the end, we just did a lot of asset protection. So we knew we couldn't beat the fire with water because we just didn't have the infrastructure there. So it was put in back burns and then use our water to protect houses and livestock. But yeah, it's really shaped me as a person. When you're 18 and you're seeing that, your life changes a bit. And I feel that changed me forever.
In what way?
I just grew up like that, and I was just like, it didn't matter about partying. It was just like, you just grew up, and it was like, all right, like, not only am I saving lives, my life's in danger as well. And when it's that black and white, it's so much clearer to make decisions. Even though we're in a team of about 50, like our strike team, there was no arguments with anyone. Like when it's that tough and you're in such a crazy environment, no one worries about where they are in the hierarchy or any of that. We're in this together and we'll move forward together, and that's really, really shaped me. It's not about where you are, what your status is. It's just about working together and getting the best results.
Yeah, wow. That's crazy. It must have been kind of humbling in some way too, to sort of experience something like that.
Yeah, it really was. Like, we have different fuel loads in South Australia, and even though we have fires and stuff like that, we don't lose the houses or the lives, I guess, that people in New South Wales lose. And coming home, you somewhat had hero status to an extent, like at the airport, but that felt like you were just doing what you were trained to do. So again, you kind of felt a bit awkward with that. Like, if anyone else was trained, they would be doing the exact same thing. It's just I was trained in that particular discipline. That was my job to do at the time.
And so you said, to start off with, you're a tearaway kid.
Yeah.
Tell me what you mean by that.
I just ran my own race. And kind of when you're a kid, you're not meant to run your own race yet. So I was more worried about sport and girls, and went to quite a nice Catholic school, and their term was we were no longer a suitable fit, was how they put it, which was an interesting term. But
how old were you when that happened?
I would have been 17. So in year 11, they wouldn't let me do year 12 because they seen me as a distraction to others, which is fair, but I probably was. So like, nothing against them, that's all fair, and it's probably allowed me to switch and do what I wanted to do, because I had no career ambitions while I was there. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I said I thought about the army at that stage. I had no idea, because you're somewhat in a safe place. You'd been there with all your friends, you're kind of all in the same boat, where me having to leave that environment really changed my so what am I going to do now? I didn't know if I was going to complete year 12, I didn't know if I was going to get a job, an apprenticeship, go to uni. It kind of thrust those decisions forward for me, which I think is really beneficial. Where if I stayed there, ran amok, I would have got to the end of year 12 and would have then had to make those decisions.
Yeah. Anyway, right? So
I think it moved it forward 12 months, and it allowed me to then go to a high school which focused on tech and getting apprentices and apprenticeships and stuff, which then allowed me to then move into my apprenticeship. So it was really good, and I don't think I would have got that opportunity at that organisation unless I went to that technical college.
Nice. And so what happened then? So you moved to high schools?
Yep.
Started off on trade?
Yes, so I went to St. Pat's, which is South Australia's like #1 tech college type of thing. They had a good association with the ASC, which is the Submarine Corporation. So they maintain Collins class, our Navy's submarines. Was a pretty good welder, I guess. My pop was a welder, so I took a bit from him. He was cool.
Sorry, that's kind of cool. Like there's this kind of generational thing, right? Did you decide to do welding because of that kind of connection, or was it just kind of synchronistic?
No, so when I got kicked out of in year 11, I was completely lost, and Mum was a bit like, I don't know what to do with you. So I went and seen Pop, and we. The story is he took me out in the yard. He didn't tell me what we were doing. He's like, we're just going to build some shade sails for Grandma's plants.
Nice.
We built them out of steel, obviously, cut it up, welded it. And after a few days, the job was done. We sat down, we had a look at it. We didn't have a beer. I was a bit young, but you know. And we had a look, and he's like, well, did you like the last couple of days? And I was sitting there and I could actually see something I'd achieved. It was really tangible, and I said, yeah. And then he explained that was his whole career. It was cutting steel, welding it back together, and building things. And I thought, well, yeah, I could do that. It wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
So that's when I went to the technical college, and that's where I really got, I guess, my drive from. So he worked at Woomera up there, and he worked a lot in BHP in Whyalla. So he had a wealth of knowledge around boiler making and welding, and it was really good to, I guess we created a bit more of a connection from there, and I really liked being able to sit down with Pop and talk for hours for that, because he's not a man of many words, but instantly we had something in common, I guess. So
That's cool, man.
It was cool, and it just felt right.
Yeah. That's cool, isn't it? Because I think a lot of us, I'm a bit awkward talking to my parents, right?
Yeah.
Sort of having that connection over something career-related or work-related is kind of nice, I suppose.
Yeah, well, once I started my apprenticeship, I'd obviously be working in the industry, and then I'd have dinner with my grandparents, or we'd have family dinners, and Pop would be like, oh, what are you up to? And I'd be like, oh, doing this, and he's like, oh, yeah, and we'd share tips, share tricks, and it was cool. Like, no one else really had that in the family, you know what I mean? But me and Pop shared something no one else really understood. So no one else was a welder or anything like that. So it really brought us a lot closer, which was...
And what's it like welding subs?
Hard.
Yeah?
In one word?
Yeah.
Really hard. They have their own weld school within the organisation, and you just go there and practice and practice and practice until you're up to the standard. And if your welds drop from that standard, you go back to that weld school and you practice and practice.
Wow.
Yeah. Weld 42 lives. There's no... When it goes down, it's got to come back up, and was always in the forefront of my mind. I always made sure that when I signed off on that job, I was 100% happy with it.
Now that's interesting, isn't it? Because in your firefighting work, and then once again in that welding stuff, that's like zero error kind of territory, isn't it? Both of them. So,
and that really, I guess, matured me real quick.
Yeah.
Like, who else at around 18 worked all day on submarines, building things, and had 42 lives in their hands, and then overnight hardly slept because he was out on the back of a fire truck, cutting people out of cars, going to structure fires, doing that stuff.
Wow.
I didn't realise, I guess, at the time how influential and it made me, but yeah, now looking back, it's really shaped who I am and my personality and my character, I guess. So I'm blunt and to the point, but that's because those environments are blunt and to the point, because most things are time critical, or when you work with Navy, they're very time critical around things. So it's really shaped me as a person.
Yeah, amazing. Awesome skill to have anyway, is like just to be able to cut down to the core of whatever, right? Like the core of the work, the core of the argument, the core of the whatever it is that needs to get done.
Yeah,
and just zero in and execute.
The only person at uni that struggles to get to word count. Everyone else is cutting stuff out, and I'm just like, oh, I need like another 100 words. Like, need to add some filler in here somewhere. But it's like, yeah, other people write a paragraph, I write a sentence. I'm like, yeah, I got it. Like,
Yeah.
but that's just me.
Well, fuck, awesome skill to have. I'd certainly trade in my long-windedness for a bit more succinctness. Yeah, cool. And so what happened there? Because you obviously spent quite a few years welding subs, which, I mean, just paint a picture for people. Like, what's it like being inside one of those things? And, you know, I guess even working on it makes people kind of claustrophobic. But what about putting the thing together?
It's crazy, and it's really hard to articulate because they're so sensitive. Like, you can't just go and have a look, or it's not like a ship where they have open days or anything like that. They are quite confined. The living spaces are made for human occupancy, so they're quite livable. You don't feel claustrophobic. Obviously, there's not a lot of headroom. I'm not very tall, so that doesn't matter. But then a lot of our work as welders was in areas where humans weren't meant to go.
Yeah.
So we're in the bottom of bilge tanks, in the bottom of fuel tanks and that, where erosion and corrosion might have happened, and then we'd had to go in and weld up areas or do welds in areas where it wasn't designed for human occupancy. So yeah, I spent probably half my time, 3/4 of my days that I worked there would have been in confined spaces.
Wow. So it's sort of like being a mix between being an engineer and a caver.
Yeah, you literally pull yourself through on T-frames, just pull yourself through. And you could be pulling yourself through for like 10, 20 metres in tanks.
Wow.
These are big tanks.
Intense, man.
Yeah.
And what happened then? So you spend some years like welding subs?
So loved loved welding. It's an art in my opinion. So finished my apprenticeship. Went on to win their Apprentice of the Year, won South Australia's Apprentice of the Year, was a finalist within Australia. Stayed on for about a year and a half after all of that, worked as a tradie, really wanted to consolidate what I'd learned. And then I got some really good mentors, I guess, out of winning those awards and meeting those people. And they sat me down and said, yeah, you might have not been bright in high school, but you're pretty bright now. Like, you can do this forever and you'll make really good money, and a trade is a great career, but are you going to be happy doing that forever? You've kind of reached the pinnacle, and my size meant I got some of the hardest jobs on those submarines for the fact that I could physically fit, where other larger 50-year-old welders wouldn't fit. And I thought, well, maybe no, I don't want to do that. There's a bit of, are we going to get more defence work? It was around that time, nothing had been signed. So we sat down and we just chatted with a few of my mentors, and I found out that I like to work in teams, coming back to all the way when I was a fireman. And well, how can I be an influence in a team and drive business and stuff like that? So we kind of came to the conclusion that maybe studying business management and moving into project management, where I could maybe be more towards the top of the tree of a project and help drive the team towards the common goals. So that's the path I'm on now, to try and become a project manager within construction or defence or anything, where I can take my welding and trade knowledge, combine it with my business knowledge, and project manage and help my character be a part of my success, I guess.
Awesome.